The Governance of China, Volume 5, by Xi Jinping. Introduction, by Fred S. Teng. Understanding China through its leader's voice. In a world increasingly shaped by geopolitical suspicion and strategic mistrust, it is tempting to dismiss official documents from rival nations as mere propaganda. This temptation is especially strong when it comes to China, whose political system, economic development, foreign and domestic policies are often subject to skepticism among foreign analysts. Yet such dismissiveness comes at a cost. When China speaks, particularly through its most senior leader, it is worth listening, not because we must accept every word at face value, but because within the lines and between them lies a roadmap of what China is thinking, planning, and prioritizing. Nowhere is this more evident than in the recently published fifth volume of Xi Jinping, The Governance of China. Released in July 2025, this volume collects 91 speeches, instructions, and written remarks delivered by President Xi Jinping between May 27th, 2022 and December 20th, 2024. These are not casual utterances or ceremonial greetings. They are thematic, deliberate, and policy-rich. They offer insight into China's evolving political vocabulary, economic strategy, cultural positioning, and global vision. Taken together, they present a compelling narrative of how China sees its future and how it wishes to be seen. For those seeking to understand China on its own terms, this book is indispensable. A window into China's strategic mindset. Organized into 18 thematic sections, the volume covers everything from modernization to high-quality development, from party discipline to global governance. These themes are not isolated. They are interwoven into a coherent strategic framework that defines China's governance model in the post-COVID era and beyond. One of the most important takeaways is how seriously the Chinese leadership takes the concept of Chinese modernization, which is not just about GDP or skyscrapers. Xi presents it as a model rooted in China's own history, values, and political experience. Unlike Western modernization theory that assumes economic development must lead to social and political changes, China's approach combines economic reform with party leadership, social stability, and cultural confidence. For China, modernization is not imitation, it is adaptation. Western readers often question whether China's rhetoric matches its actions, but when Xi speaks of national rejuvenation, self-reliance, and common prosperity, it would be a mistake to think these are empty slogans. They are statements of intent. The policies pursued under his leadership, including investing in green energy, upgrading manufacturing, and promoting rural revitalization, are consistent with the themes expressed in this book. The message is not simply aspirational, it is programmatic. Economic reform remains a central focus in this volume, but with notable evolution. The traditional emphasis on rapid growth is giving way to what she calls high-quality development. This includes upgrading the industrial chain, fostering homegrown innovation, ensuring energy security, and improving income distribution. China no longer wants to be the factory of the world. It is actively pursuing strategies to move up the value chain, focusing on higher-end manufacturing, technological innovation, and domestic consumption. These speeches reveal how the leadership is consciously managing a transition from quantitative expansion to qualitative improvement. At the core of this shift is the belief that China must reduce its external dependencies, particularly in key technologies and supply chains. In Xi's words, the country must cultivate new, quality, productive forces and strengthen the resilience of its development. It is a vision born not just of ambition, but of necessity. Foreign observers often question whether China is truly opening up or closing in. The answer from these speeches has clarified that China is continuously pursuing openness, especially in sectors where it sees a comparative advantage or strategic opportunity. But that openness is now conditionally hedged by concerns about national security and ideological cohesion. As she makes clear, openness must never come at the expense of sovereignty or systemic integrity. Another theme that runs through the volume is cultural confidence. In the West, governance legitimacy is often claimed to be from electoral competition and procedural transparency. In China, legitimacy is increasingly framed around performance, historical continuity, and cultural authenticity. Xi's speeches emphasize the importance of traditional values, ideological education, and social morality. This reflects the party's belief that national unity and public support are grounded not only in economic success but also in a shared civilizational identity. This may be alleged by some outside China as politically orchestrated, but to dismiss it entirely is to miss the deeper truth. The Chinese leadership believes that its moral authority is essential to long-term stability. It does not view governance as a contest of popularity, but as a responsibility to deliver order, progress, and pride. That belief is reflected not only in the tone of these speeches, but also in the policy outcomes, such as anti-corruption campaigns, poverty alleviation, and the continued expansion of social infrastructure. National defense and security receive significant attention in this volume. But unlike the militaristic rhetoric of some other global leaders, Xi frames security not in terms of confrontation, but as a prerequisite for peace and development. His speeches argue that without security there can be no prosperity. This logic underpins everything from military modernization to cybersecurity to public health governance. China's concept of security is comprehensive, encompassing not just the military, but also food security, energy independence, environmental sustainability, and social cohesion. The idea is that resilience in these domains reinforces the country's sovereignty and reduces vulnerability to external shocks. This is particularly important in an era of global instability where the interdependence of nations is both strength and risk. Speaking to the world, not just the party. What makes this fifth volume especially important is its international dimension. In several speeches, she discusses the Global Development Initiative, the Global Security Initiative, and the Global Civilizations Initiative. These are not just diplomatic slogans. They are part of China's attempt to reframe global discourse on development, peace, and governance. Rather than merely reacting to the international order, China is trying to offer its own solutions, reflecting the needs of the rest of the world. Through these initiatives, she calls for mutual respect, multipolarity, and a rejection of zero-sum thinking. Whether one agrees with China's approach or not, the message is consistent. China will have a larger voice in global affairs, and it believes its model offers credible lessons for others. China means what it says. One of the most important arguments this volume makes, both implicitly and explicitly, is that China means what it says. This may seem obvious, but it is often overlooked in Western discourse. Analysts are quick to look for contradictions between word and deed, or to assume that China's messaging is solely for domestic consumption. But if there is one thing to be learned from 5 volumes of the book, it is that words matter. In China's political culture, official language is policy. Rhetoric is not ornament. It is careful word choice to highlight important concepts. This is not to suggest that all predictions derived from these speeches will materialize exactly as stated. Like any nation, China must adjust to events, pressures, and feedback, but it does mean that when the Chinese president outlines strategic goals, ideological priorities, or developmental paths, it is not a performance. It is a signal, and it deserves to be taken seriously. As the world confronts a more advanced China, it is essential to understand how China sees itself. The 5th volume of Xi Jinping, The Governance of China, is not a neutral academic text, but neither is it a hollow propaganda exercise. It is a declaration of intent, of vision, and principle. To read it is to listen to the voice of China's most senior leaders' visions. To ignore it is to misunderstand the very forces shaping the 21st century. In a time of growing uncertainty, genuine understanding is the foundation of any constructive relationship. This book offers that opportunity. We should take it. The author is president of the America-China Public Affairs Institute. End of introduction.